What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to TTP Sports. And we're a couple of days removed from Super Bowl 57, the heartbreak that it was. And even though it is a couple of days after it, the heartbreak's still there. The feelings are still there, and it's still just a weird time right now just because of the missed opportunity that was the Philadelphia Eagles. And, just missing a complete opportunity to win another Lombardi. Leading by 10 points at halftime, all these situations where you stab yourself in the foot. I know there's a lot of other complications throughout the game, and we'll definitely talk about that as well. This is more just, instead of just the pure reaction from the game, try to get a couple of days after to clear your thoughts and think about everything and just look at the game again and just try to get like a full-fledged opinion on everything. It's kind of hard to do that still, honestly, just because it still feels very raw, if you know what I mean. A couple days removed, and, sports talk radio is talking about everything. People are just trying to clear their heads. It's just a weird time right now. This is going to take a little bit for the city to recover from that entire Super Bowl. It's a hard thing because you were going into the game as the favorite. There were a lot of expectations with this team, and rightfully so. We were right to be confident in this Eagles team because they gave us no reason to not be confident in them. But maybe some of those things that we talked about during the season that we were having concerns about, midway through the season and all that stuff, a couple of themes that didn't really reoccur as the end of the season came along, and then you got into the first two rounds of the playoffs. None of that stuff really crept up again until the Super Bowl, and that's another thing we'll talk about in a little bit with Jonathan Gannon's defense and the special teams. So that is something that we'll talk about. But also in terms of, I don't even know if it's breaking news anymore because we've all found this out basically this afternoon, very early in the afternoon actually, about, I would say it's like between 12 and 2. So like the first announcement was from the Indianapolis Colts that they hired Shane Steichen, the Eagles offensive coordinator, to be their head coach. And I believe it was a 6-year contract. So I'm like, good for Steichen. It hurts because the offense called a fantastic game. They called a game that basically matched Patrick Mahomes. I honestly thought Jalen Hurts was the better quarterback than Patrick Mahomes in that game, but sadly, the defense was not able to get that stop that it desperately needed to, close out the game. And some of those plays, especially in the second half, that really stand out to me. It's that first drive by the Chiefs coming out of the half into the third quarter. You don't get a stop. Honestly, it's a 10-point lead going into the third quarter. Possibly, if you stop the Chiefs on that opening drive in the half, you stop them, you get the ball back, and you go and score. You make it a 17-point game. Maybe that's a little more for the Chiefs to overcome. Maybe your defense gets that stop, and maybe your defense gets a little confidence. Maybe, you start rushing Pat Mahomes more. I'm not even saying get 20 sacks. I'm just saying apply pressure to him and make him make a mistake. Make the playmakers make the mistake. And it was just too easy. It was completely easy for guys like Patrick Mahomes. Easy for Travis Kelce. Easy for Juju. Easy for everyone else on that Chiefs offense. Our defense was not able to do anything whatsoever. They were not able to get any type of pressure on Pat Mahomes, and a bunch of the movement pre-snap, especially closer into the red zone later on in the game. You could tell that our secondary was getting very confused. They had no idea what was going on. Andy Reid and the decision-making right there to add that pre-snap movement to the play really confused the Eagles. And honestly, if I think about that, I think that comes to preparation, especially Jonathan Gannon. That goes on him. And also breaking news for Jonathan Gannon as well. Even though it's not breaking news at this point because we all know him from the afternoon. And this is probably the worst kept secret. That he's now the Arizona Cardinals head coach. And I say to that, good riddance. Good riddance, Jonathan Gannon. So he's now the Cardinals head coach. I'm not sure how that's going to work out there in Arizona with, Kyler Murray and everything like that. You got a defensive-minded guy as the head coach. How is that going to work with a weapon like a Kyler Murray, who is very offensively gifted? So there's definitely a lot of things to think about on that aspect. So, but Jonathan Gannon's no longer with the Eagles, and we don't have to worry about it. We definitely don't have to worry about that. But it's sad to see Steichen go just because of the fantastic game plan that him and Nick Sirianni thought up of. Jalen Hurts was absolutely fantastic. Honestly, you could say he deserved MVP over Patrick Mahomes in that game, but they're never going to give the losing team an MVP of the Super Bowl. That's just not how it works. But Patrick Mahomes played a great game too. Defense made it easy for him, and he just completely steamrolled us. We're not able to get that stop. And that's where we stand today. You make that one stop, you win the Super Bowl. It was basically, what you needed in 2017, Super Bowl 52. Brandon Graham, later on in the game, gets the strip sack. You get the ball back, you go and kick a field goal, and you force them to do a Hail Mary to try to tie the game up, and that's basically the game right there. You needed that one stop, and you couldn't get it. And Patrick Mahomes was just able to plow you down easily because your defensive coordinator was not prepared for this. And those true colors that we all criticized Jonathan Gannon about throughout the year, even last year as well, came back. We showed confidence in Gannon on the final stretch of the year in the first 2 games of the playoffs. But, the record shows when he goes up against a top-tier quarterback or even a good quarterback, just gets torched. Gets absolutely torched. And it shows. Remember the game against Andy Dalton earlier in the year against the Saints? Even though Eagles probably should have won that game if Gardner Minshew did not play the way he did. But Andy Dalton, going 13 out of 13 with, completion attempts and all that. When he goes up against a good quarterback, it starts to show. It definitely does. Who knows, man? Who knows? But he's gone now, and now you got to make some decisions with the coordinators. Not sure what you're going to do with those in-house options. I know for offensively, it's most likely, everyone's talking about Brian Johnston, the quarterback's coach. Jalen Hurts is very high on him. Nick Sirianni is very high on him. Shane Steichen was very high on him. A lot of people around the league are high on Brian Johnston. He's most likely going to be the offensive coordinator. And personally, I'm not worried about the offense going forward because you're not really losing that many guys on the offensive side. I personally believe that. When you got Jalen Hurts under center, you're basically the only guy you're losing on the offensive line is Isaac Seumalo. I don't expect Jason Kelce to retire, especially after losing the Super Bowl. I don't expect that. You're going to have Jordan Mailata. You're going to have Landon Dickerson. You're going to have Jason Kelce at center. That right guard position, most likely, I would expect it to be Cam Jurgens to take that spot up for Isaac Seumalo. And then when eventually Jason Kelce does retire, Cam Jurgens, he moves into the center spot. But then you also get Lane Johnson, right tackle. It is, talked about this afternoon or it was actually yesterday, that he is planning to get the surgery to repair basically all the injuries that he had with the groin and everything later this week. Hopefully he'll be ready for training camp in the season to start. I'm not sure about training camp. Most likely, hopefully he'll be ready for the season. You still got your wideouts, a dominant game right there. You still got your tight end Dallas Goedert. Everything with A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, that's still there. Gonna have to make some decisions on Quez Watkins, though. I know Quez Watkins in the NovaCare complex today because they were doing their cleaning in the locker room and all that stuff, that he says he's even hungrier for next year, and everyone say, oh, he was playing injured and all that stuff. I think they need to do something else than Quez. He's had so many opportunities this year where he's completely flumped on. He had a big fumble, I believe, in the game against the Commanders at home on Monday Night Football where they, the first loss of the year. Had a bunch of opportunities, and especially that in the Super Bowl, in that third quarter where he had a chance to make a big catch down the field to go right to the goal line. Went right through his hands. Got to make that catch. Got to make that catch. I know some people want to say that, oh, there was a holding on the play or something like that. Refs didn't call it. It doesn't matter. It is what it is. You can't change it. It was in his hands. It goes right through it. You got to make that catch. You couldn't ask for a better throw from Jalen Hurts. And Jalen Hurts was throwing dimes all day long. So you got to make, some options there. You're most likely losing Miles Sanders, but I believe that's easily replaceable. You can either do that in the late stages of the draft or size someone in free agency or make a trade. I think that's easily replaceable Miles Sanders. And honestly, good riddance to Miles Sanders too. I know he had a career year with 1,000 rushing yards, but he had a terrible Super Bowl. A terrible Super Bowl. One of the first plays of the game, he runs out of bounds and almost fumbles the ball. Pops right out of his hand. And then that one play in the third quarter, I believe, where honestly you could have called it both ways. And luckily it was an incomplete pass because he wasn't able to take a step forward. Luckily that happened. But I can honestly see it going the other way and it becomes another fumble recovery touchdown. So it's one of those things there as well. But with most likely bringing back Boston Scott, Kenneth Gainwell, and Jalen Hurts in his run attack, I think you could find an easily replaceable running back. So I think I'm not worried about the offensive side. Defensively, there's definitely going to be a lot of questions and thoughts about, certain guys maybe retiring or just leaving in free agency. A lot of guys on that defensive front, Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox, Javon Hargrave, all those guys are free agents. We're not sure what's going to happen in that situation. It might be tough to bring Javon Hargrave back. It might be tough to bring a guy back like James Bradberry, even though in the NovaCare complex today, same thing, cleaning out the locker rooms and everything, that he said he would be willing to return to the Eagles, but he also wants to test the market so he can get his due and get his paycheck. So, honestly, I wouldn't expect James Bradberry to be back because he's going to be making a lot of money in the free agency market, and I don't think the Eagles are going to have the space to bring him back. But then there's also, CJ Gardner-Johnson. He's expected a big pay raise, and I think he's one of the more important people that you need to bring back on the defensive side of the ball. And do you try to bring back Javon Hargrave? He's 30 years old, defensive front, and is he going to, be a little too expensive for you to bring back? So that's a question mark right there. Is Brandon Graham going to retire, or is he going to come back? What do you do with Fletcher Cox? Because he's also a free agent. So there's a lot of decision making on that standpoint. Right now, I still feel like that's the least on my mind, just because of everything. It's still 2 days after the Super Bowl, and I'm just thinking about everything possible right here. Just how much of a missed opportunity it was. It just completely was. From Gannon and everything like that, to just basically the offensive. How great you were on offense. You just needed one stop, man. You just needed one stop, and you couldn't do it. You couldn't do it. I'm not even asking for a Brandon Graham strip sack. I'm not asking for that. I'm just asking to get a stop. 3rd and 8. Even though the entire thing with the refs, you don't call that flag in that situation. You just don't. You just don't. You just don't. And like I said, and I said this on Sunday, like I said, it's on the refs. They had their impact in the game, not on them. But if I'm looking back at that entire game, it's just weird to me, in my honest opinion, because James Bradberry going up against Juju Smith-Schuster, there was a more obvious holding call earlier in the game where I believe Bradberry completely spun around Juju, and that wasn't called. That was more obvious of a hold. But you're calling the one at the end of the game where it's completely not affecting the route, and the ball wasn't probably nowhere going to be close to be caught. So, yeah, I understand James Bradberry owned up to it, and I respect him for that. He's not going out there complaining that it wasn't a flag. He's owning up to it, so I respect that. But at the end of the game, in the most important situation, I just personally feel like the Eagles got robbed in that scenario. Like I said, it's not what cost them the game. It is not entirely. But I feel like it cost them a chance for Jalen Hurts, because if you stop them on that 3rd and 8, do they try to go for it on 4th down? And you understand, if they go for it on 4th down, there's no guarantee that you stop them there either. But if you do get that stop, do they just go and kick the field goal? And Jalen Hurts had a lot more time on the clock, and you do have another timeout. What does Jalen Hurts do in that final minute and 40 with the way the offense has been playing all day? I feel like Jalen Hurts was robbed of that chance to try to go and win the game. I just feel like Jalen Hurts personally was robbed. So, yeah, that's how I feel on that standpoint. But just looking at the rest of the game too, 10-point lead, just a 10-point lead at halftime. And you couldn't get the job done. Your offense was doing everything possible for you. Jalen Hurts was doing everything possible for you. Dallas Goedert was having a fantastic game, making fantastic catches. You saw some of those conversions on 3rd down that Dallas Goedert made, and those throws that Jalen Hurts was giving to him. Like, that was some good stuff. Devontae Smith, he was in a walking boot after the game, but here he goes making catches near the goal line. A.J. Brown with a nice 45-yard touchdown. He was fantastic. The offense was fantastic, besides Miles Sanders and Quez Watkins. Just, I know the fumble can happen. The fumble cannot happen at all. But Jalen Hurts, he got the chance. Shane Steichen, Nick Sirianni gave him that one chance to go right back out there. And Jalen Hurts delivered. He made up for that mistake. It's just the fact that, you're leading 10 at halftime. And you can't get a stop on that first drive. That was probably where the game was lost. That drive, third quarter. Couldn't stop them. They go right down the field. It made it look way too easy for them. That's where I thought the game was lost. All you needed to do was make that one stop on that drive. And maybe the whole, complex of the game changes. They convert that drive. They win the game. You stop them on that drive. Maybe something else changes. So it hurts. It does. It still hurts. But I think, emotionally, I'm feeling a little bit better, but it still hurts. It does. But, sleeping it off and everything, it made my mood better. But I'm still what I'm talking about it right now. Honestly, I'm getting mad about it. But thinking about everything rationally and just trying to look through the game entirely, it's just, reliving the moment. And I don't like it. And I don't think anyone here likes it. Man, I'm just going to be haunted, by a lot of things from that game. The 10-point lead at halftime, the fumble recovery touchdown. What else? Honestly, Kenneth Gainwell slipping before the fumble recovery touchdown. I feel like that's one of the things that's going to, honestly, if Kenneth Gainwell doesn't slip on that second down chance to convert the first down, maybe the fumble recovery doesn't happen. Maybe Isaac Seumalo doesn't go offside. So, Gainwell slipping led to Seumalo getting offside on the QB sneak, which led to Jalen Hurts, fumbling the football. Butterfly effect. One thing leads to another. It's crazy. What else? The penalty at the end of the game, that's going to haunt me. Man, oh man. Couldn't get a stop. Just couldn't get one stop. The defense couldn't do anything. I feel like there was even one play during the game, too, where Josh Sweat had an easy sack, and he slipped. And going to the field now, that field was terrible. How much was that? Did that field cost $800,000 to make? And it turns into that slop where Eagles players, Chiefs players are slipping all over the field. And the Eagles players are replacing their cleats, having to put on another pair just because the field is that terrible. It's ridiculous. There were so many Chiefs players when they're catching the ball, they, maybe had a chance to break and they slipped. Same thing with the Eagles. If they had a chance to break, they would slip. Defensive players slipping all over the place. Offensive linemen, defensive linemen slipping all over the place. How does it get that bad? That's an embarrassment on the NFL, but of course, no one's going to own up to it because the NFL, only thing they care about is cashing their money. So no one's going to own up to it for the field situation. Seriously, no one has talked about that from the NFL on how terrible the field quality was. So it happened for both sides. Like I said, Eagles players and Chiefs players were slipping all over the field the entire game. I have no idea how it was that bad. Man. But it just, I don't know, man. It still sucks. It does. It's going to suck for a while. Baseball season, it can only save so much just because it's a long year, a long season. Philadelphia's going to be feeling this for a little bit. Because now that the Eagles are done, Sixers are next. But honestly, people right now still really don't care about the Sixers regular season just because for them, regular season doesn't matter until, whatever, if they can actually get the job done in the playoffs. And still no one's confident about that. Flyers are the Flyers. They're not going anywhere. Who's the next team that could possibly save the city? Could it be the Sixers? I have no idea. Do the Sixers go into the finals and lose? Like, do they actually get over the hump, but they get to the finals? They get a 3-1 lead in the finals, but they choke and they blow it? Does the city get another heartbreak? Like, who's going to be the next team in the city to win a championship and actually get the job done? Because, that's 3 straight teams in a span of, 6 months? Not even, probably 5 months. That lost the championship. And the Phillies and the Union lost the championship on the same day. Seriously, I'm not even that connected to Union. And I'm just like, really? You were up a player. They were down a goaltender, and you lost in the final minute of the extra time, and then you lost in penalty kicks. We allowed them to tie it at the end of the game. Then you went to penalty kicks. Like, seriously, you lost the championship in penalty kicks when you were leading with like a minute left in the game. And the Philly situation, you were up 2-1 in the World Series. But if you're looking at an entire Phillies run, it was a miracle ride. They were a 3rd wild card spot team. Yeah, they steamrolled the Braves. They steamrolled the Padres. They went up 2-1 against the Astros, and they were looking like they were just unbeatable at home. They ran out of gas. No one was expecting them to beat the Astros. We were confident. Like I said, for the Phillies in the World Series this year against the Astros, it kind of reminds me of, Eagles fans last year, all of us going up against Tampa Bay last year in the wild card round. We believed that the Eagles could win, but probably deep down, we probably thought they weren't going to because they were going up against Tom Brady. And reality came true. They got smoked in that wild card round. And the Phillies get no hit in Game 5. You go hit in Game 4. You lose Game 5 because you can't score anybody with runners in scoring position. And in Game 6, it's just heartbreaker. When it was a close game the entire time, and then just, Jose Alvarado being used maybe 1 too many times, gives up the bomb. And that's the game. With the Eagles, dominating the entire year. Start off 8-0. Finish with a 14-3 record. Steamroll through the playoffs. 75 sacks, 78 sacks combined. We had all the right in the world to be confident. Just couldn't get the job done. That sucks. It just does. It really does. Man, oh man. And yeah, you got to give credit to Andy Reid. Out coaching. Even though I didn't think Andy Reid coached the best game, he coached better when it mattered in that second half. And how ironic is it that Andy Reid had better clock management? How ironic is that? One of Andy Reid's biggest flaws turned out to be the factor in the game. But really the factor in the game was, the defense for the Eagles not making a stop. That's just point right there. Not making a stop whatsoever. Not making one single stop. Man. Still stings. Still stings a ton. And like I said, we're not going to get over this. It's going to be a little bit. We'll eventually recover. We'll eventually heal. But it's going to sting for a little bit. But, man. Just had it in the palm of your hands. You had it. And you just lost it. Thank you, Gannon. For nothing. For nothing. Literally, thank you for nothing. Steichen, I'll miss you. You thought of an amazing offensive game plan for the Super Bowl. Jalen Hurts, man. Speaking of Jalen Hurts, man, it's just, even though I don't want to, bring up any morals of the game, looking to the future and all that stuff, because it's still a couple of days removed, and I don't think a lot of people are ready for that yet, even though there are some people that are moving on and looking towards the future, which good for them because that helps them get their mind off everything. There's a lot of people that, are looking forward to the draft. So people that help themselves get their mind off the game, good for them. For some people, it just lingers longer because you lost that opportunity. But in talking about the future, just because this is something to bring up, and I saw someone bring it up in the chat too, is I think Eric brought it up in the chat, that looking at this game and looking how the offense played and just looking at one guy And that guy is Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts was fantastic. Jalen Hurts was unbelievable. This man played probably the best game of his life in the Super Bowl. And he proved to all the haters out there, a lot of people that said, oh, if you make Jalen Hurts play quarterback, he's not good. No, he played a good game. He played a fantastic game. He was probably the better quarterback on the field. Jalen Hurts, I believe, I think I heard this on the radio, that he was the first quarterback to put up the stats that he did. 300 plus yards, 4 touchdowns combined, 3 rushing touchdowns, the amount of rushing yards he had. He's the first quarterback to do that and lose the Super Bowl. And then also something else in terms of, history there. The Eagles. And just talking about everything here. The Eagles are the first team in NFL history in conference championship combined with the Super Bowl. They are the first team to lose a game, conference championship and Super Bowl combined. To lose a game when they score 35 points or more. You want to know the record before that of the teams that had 35 plus points in the conference championship or the Super Bowl? Well, and the Super Bowl. Want to know what the record was? 39-0. Teams were 39-0 when they scored 35 or more points in the conference championship and the Super Bowl. And the Eagles are the first team to lose. First team. Just think about that. Just think about that. You score 35 points. Your quarterback put up 300 yards. He put up comparable numbers to Nick Foles in Super Bowl 52. For how historic Jalen Hurts was. You lost. Because your goddamn defense couldn't do anything. Man, just thinking about that just made me mad. It just did. I can't even believe it. Like, seriously. That's the history we make. There's so much history throughout this game. Jalen Hurts, first quarterback that he's the quarterback with the most rushing yards and the most rushing touchdowns in a Super Bowl. The numbers that he put up were fantastic. It was MVP numbers. He did all that. Lost. But going back to Jalen Hurts, I know I keep, scrambling all the topics and everything like this. Jalen Hurts proved something to Eagles fans, and he proved something to the entire NFL world on the Super Bowl stage. That he is the real deal. He is not going anywhere. He is one of the upper echelon quarterbacks in the league. I don't think he's on Pat Mahomes' tier because Pat Mahomes is just the best quarterback in the NFL. But if you're talking about tiers of quarterbacks, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, who else? Maybe eventually Trevor Lawrence. I'm trying to think of other quarterbacks around the league. It's blanking my mind right now. Who are other, fantastic quarterbacks throughout the league? Could you put Justin Herbert in that situation? I'm not entirely sure, but, the tier of, the Joe Burrows, the Josh Allens, like that tier of quarterback. That's where Jalen Hurts is. That tier of quarterback, Jalen Hurts proved on the biggest stage in the sports that he's not going anywhere. He's the real deal. He is made for the moment. He's not afraid of it. And now that he proved that, you got your franchise quarterback. He put up an MVP season. And he did something special in the Super Bowl. Sadly, he didn't win. And he deserved to win. But with the way he played, that makes me confident that Jalen Hurts' future will eventually have a Lombardi. That means another Super Bowl for Philadelphia? Eventually. I'm not sure when they're going to get back there. Because it's a very hard task. But I firmly believe Jalen Hurts is going to eventually win a Super Bowl because he just showcased that he's made for the moment. I firmly believe that. On the biggest stage in the world, the biggest stage in sports, the Super Bowl. Lights are shining down on you. The entire world is watching you. And you shined. Like I said, I believe he played better than Pat Mahomes. He put a fantastic game out there. He's the real deal. He's legit. He's your franchise. And when you have the head coach combination of Nick Sirianni, because honestly, I thought Nick Sirianni coached a good game. I feel like majority of the coaching mistakes were on Jonathan Gannon and him not adapting. That's where I feel like the coaching mistakes lie down on, or Jonathan Gannon. And now he's gone. And you got to think of who replaces him. And also thinking about, replacing Jonathan Gannon. I did remember seeing a tweet out there talking about possible replacements for Gannon, because we all know for the offensive coordinator, it's most likely Brian Johnston. That's going to be the replacement in-house right there. Quarterback's coach. Everyone's very high on him. Not concerned about the offense whatsoever. But I saw this from Brandon Lee Goedert that's saying, Jonathan Gannon says newly promoted Eagles defensive passing coordinator / defensive backs coach Denard Wilson is his right-hand man. Wilson will probably be the favorite for the defensive coordinator if / when Gannon is not back next year. This was a tweet back from July. And we're in that position right now. Nick Sirianni was asked about the Eagles' success in the secondary and gave a lot of credit to Denard Wilson, strong candidate to be Jonathan Gannon's replacement in his opinion. That was, from, Brandon Lee giving his opinion. That was from January. So, wouldn't be shocked if a guy like Denard Wilson could be the next defensive coordinator. But that's also not guaranteed if Gannon doesn't bring him to Arizona with him. Because you all know the head coach, they bring in their own coordinators. They decided who was that. So, who knows? Maybe Denard Wilson goes to Arizona. But if the Eagles keep him, maybe he's possibly the next coordinator. Because the Eagles seem to have a theme. They pick the young guys for the coaching jobs. And maybe they stick with it. Maybe they don't bring a, experienced veteran coach. So there's something to think about right there in terms of the coordinators. But and also talking about, I guess, futures right now. I know people, I'm not even going to be talking about the draft. That's something that's way away, a couple of months from now. So, but if you're talking about free agents right here, I had the list of Eagles free agents. So we got Fletcher Cox, Robert Quinn, most likely is coming back. Fletcher Cox, question mark, does he retire? Does he come back at a cheaper contract? I have no idea what they're going to do with him. Brandon Graham is basically the same situation. Do the Eagles re-sign him? Does he retire? No idea. Especially with Graham coming off of the best season basically of his career, 10 plus sacks. Javon Hargrave, 30 years old, could be, getting a lot of money on the market. Will the Eagles be able to afford him coming back? So that's a question mark there. Jason Kelce, I expect he's going to come back. I don't think he's going to retire at this point, especially losing the Super Bowl. I think he wants another chance to get a Lombardi. And, when you're looking at this offense as well, you're looking at Jalen Hurts under center. I think that's your next possible chance to get a Super Bowl for Jason Kelce. The next best chance is Jalen Hurts. Because if we're looking at the NFL right now, honestly, it's not built by defense anymore. It's not like, the standard cliche of defense wins championships. As long as you have a top-tier quarterback, good coaching staff, a high-powered offense, you can have an average defense and win a Super Bowl. You can. It can't be a bad defense, but it can't be, it doesn't have to be a fantastic defense. Because if you're looking at some other teams that have fantastic defenses but terrible offense, I'm looking at the Denver Broncos. They had one of the best defenses in football, but their offense was shit. So, I think the way the game is adapting, high-powered offenses and just average to above average to good defenses. You don't need a fantastic defense. So, there's some decisions that they have to make. James Bradbury, most likely going to be making a lot of money in the free agent market. Probably going to be too expensive to bring back. I don't expect him to come back. Isaac Seumalo, he's most likely isn't coming back either. Who else? TJ Edward, he's a free agent. And Ndamukong Suh, picked up basically, off the streets. Wasn't playing at all this year. He comes in, Linval Joseph as well. I doubt those two come back, in my honest opinion, but who knows? Who knows? Boston Scott is a free agent. I'm not sure he's going to be making that much on the market. I think he's going to be an easy bring back. Dak Pascal, he's a free agent. I'm not sure what they're going to do with him. Miles Sanders most likely played his last game in an Eagles uniform. I think he was leaving regardless if they won or not. Running back, it's an easily replaceable position. You can easily replace that in the late stages of the draft, free agency, or trades and whatnot. Eagles basically play a running back by committee. They don't have that one set guy. They were doing it all year. Miles Sanders, Boston Scott, Kenneth Gainwell, and you mix in Jalen Hurts as well. That's an easily replaceable position. Miles Sanders is most likely gone. Gardner-Johnson, though, he's coming off of his rookie deal, I would assume. He's only making $600K. He's going to get a big pay raise. And I think he's one of the most important people to bring back. Most likely. I would say he's the most important guy on defense to bring back. And then you lose James Bradbury, most likely. Do you replace that position with the draft? So there's decisions right there. Who else? Marcus Epps. He's a free agent. I'm not sure what they're going to do with him. Same thing with TJ Edwards. No idea what they're going to do in that position. Who else? Kaiser White. He's a free agent. Andre Dillard's a free agent. And that's basically it on the free agent standpoint for this team. I'm not sure if Jalen Hurts' contract runs out this season, because if I'm looking at his spot track, they're saying he's a UFA in 2024. So I would assume this upcoming season is his final year of his contract before he gets the gigantic pay raise. But I'm assuming they're going to do everything in their possible position to extend Jalen Hurts this offseason and give him that big boy contract, because he's definitely going to garner $50 million a year, most likely. He deserves it. He definitely deserves it for the year that he had. And he proved that he is the real deal. He's made for the moment. So that's where we stand on that position. And who else? Really? Free agency, that's basically, it's left. So a lot of question marks, definitely. Definitely a lot of question marks. I see your comment. You want Lovie Smith for a defensive coordinator? I'm not sure. He definitely would be a good option. I'm not sure where they go. Do they stay within house? Do they bring in a veteran, experienced guy? Recently, they've been bringing a lot of young guys into the position. So we have no idea. Have no idea whatsoever. So that's definitely something to look at as you go, deeper down the rabbit hole. But right now, it's basically just hearsay until it actually happens. I think the Brian Johnson one is most likely for offensive coordinator. I think that's most likely the obvious choice. So we basically just have to wait and see. Wait and see what happens on that position. Defense, a lot of decisions to make there. That's Howie Roseman's job. I'm sure he'll find a way to make everything work. He's wizard with the cap. And you got 2 draft picks this year. You got a 10th overall pick. Not sure if do you keep it, do you trade back or anything like that to get more futures for next season. In seasons after that, who knows? Do you make a big trade? Like you did? Do you make something similar to an A.J. Brown trade? Not necessarily for a wide receiver position, but maybe something for defense? Do you try to steal a guy like a C.J. Gardner-Johnson again? There's a lot of question marks. And we got to wait and see. I know Nakobe Dean, the guy that you drafted last year, national champion with Georgia, played a huge role in their defense. Does he become into a bigger position this year? Possibly. So we got to wait and see what happens. We definitely do. Special teams are something that's going to have to really be looked at. Michael Clay, he needs to be gone. They got to really focus on special teams next year, getting a better punter, some guy that can punt more than 30 yards and not give team really good field position. There's a lot of question marks there. A lot of question marks. We do have a call here on the Anytime hotline, so you can leave your thoughts and opinions there at 215-839-9885. If you want to share your thoughts and opinions on everything, surrounding the Super Bowl, I'm sure we'll have another stream maybe sometime this week or next week or this weekend just to talk about it again, or if any other news happens. But definitely, if you want to leave your thoughts and opinions, you can leave a voicemail, you can leave a text message, or you can just utilize the YouTube live feed during the streams. I'm giving you options here. It's your preference, so it does not matter to me whatsoever. So we're going to go to the first call here. We actually got 2 calls here, both from Sean. I think I know why he called twice. I'm assuming he left the first call just because of, the first call was just explaining everything, and then the second call was probably after all the news about Steichen and Jonathan Gannon. So we'll get to the first call, and then we'll listen to what Sean had to say after the whole thing with Gannon and Steichen.
So 2 days later, I'm still feeling about the same as I did after the game. I feel like this was just a missed opportunity. I mean, this year, Amadeo, it seemed like everything was working out for the Eagles. All the acquisitions, all the guys that were brought in. I mean, Cameron Dicker won this team football game. You lose a game to Washington, you end up with Linval Joseph and Ndamukong Suh. You make the trade with the Saints and get the number 10 pick for this year's draft. You made the CJ Gardner-Johnson move. Everything seemed to be going our way, except for the final result. And it hurts. I mean, it still hurts 2 days later. The other emotion I'm feeling right now is scared because the Jonathan Gannon.
I'm sure you made that, I'm sure you corrected yourself in the next call there, Sean.
Development and how that goes, I think, is the most important question in the Eagles offseason. I mean, I think we're all at this point hoping he leaves. Now you're getting stories that they're trying to hold on to him. I don't understand how you can do that, how you can prevent a guy from bettering his own career. But if he doesn't leave, what's going to change going into next year? I mean, you're going to get the same style of defense, different cast of characters because a lot of guys are going to be leaving, but the same result most likely. Anytime you face an opposition quarterback that's worth the salt, they're not going to win, and they're going to get lit up like a Christmas tree.
Yeah. I know this is before the whole Jonathan Gannon voicemail, so we'll get into that next. But, yeah, I firmly agree with you. If Jonathan Gannon was brought back, I know there was a lot of talk about them possibly trying to prevent him from going to Arizona, but in the end of the day, he's gone, and yeah, it's a missed opportunity. There's a lot of things that you got to do this offseason, but right now, I can understand why everyone's still feeling hurt. It's it's still 2 days after. That's understandable. I'm still hurt too, but talking about it, it does make you feel a little bit better to try to release all the emotions. But like I said, this is going to sting for a lot of Philadelphia fans for a while, basically until the start of next season. It's going to sting because it was a true missed opportunity. You were leading 10 points at halftime. You were leading. You had a chance firmly in your grasp. And that first drive of the third quarter really killed you. Regardless of what Jalen Hurts was doing, because of how fantastic he was, he kept you within the game. All Jonathan Gannon's defense needed to do was get one stop. And he just didn't do it. The defense wasn't able to get anything on Patrick Mahomes. And that's what lost you the game. It's nothing what the refs did. It's nothing with the field turf or anything like that. It's your defense. Something that we were praising all year long, especially in the playoffs. Came back to bite you in the ass. That's what happened. But let's get to the other call from Sean to see what he had to say about correcting himself about the whole John Gannon situation.
And a quick addendum to my earlier call. Looks like the news just broke that Gannon is gone. Amadeo, get the ticker tape out. Let's start a parade. It does lead to, if that is the case, who the Eagles bring in. Right now, the leader in the clubhouse would be Denard Wilson. I don't know who's available from the outside, but at this point, even if it is Denard Wilson, I'm willing to give him a shot. I don't know what his philosophies are. I just hope he has some semblance of more aggressiveness to him than Gannon did. Good luck to Gannon. Good luck to Shane Steichen. Time to turn the page.
Exactly, Sean. And yeah, that was the one major flaw with Gannon. When he went up against an actually good quarterback, and no, we ignored this throughout the year just because they were playing so good, and they gave us all the reason in the world to be confident. But whenever he went up against a quarterback that was good, Didn't even have to be great. It was just a good, solid quarterback. Get lit up. All perfect completions and everything. Gannon never adjusted. Gannon always stick to his philosophies. He would never adjust. Stuck to his gun, and that's what, came back to haunt us. That and the special teams. But now Gannon's gone, and now you got whatever you have to make the decisions with the defensive coordinator, whether you go out and get a guy like a Lovie Smith, or you go to Denard Wilson, the in-house option. That would kind of make me nervous because they said he is his right-hand man. I'm not sure if his defensive philosophies either, if they're even close to similar than Gannon's are. Is he going to be more aggressive? I have no idea. Just got to wait and see what they do. What Nick Sirianni, Howie Roseman do. I think we all know Brian Johnson's going to be the offensive coordinator. The defensive coordinator is going to be more of the question mark. Is it going to be in-house, or are you going to go out and get a guy off the market? So you just got to wait and see. Got to wait and see at that point. It's going to be a long offseason. The Super Bowl loss, this missed opportunity, it's going to linger in our heads for a while. Even with, Sixers and the NBA playoffs around the corner. Because that will come up on us quickly. It definitely will. We're not that far away from NBA playoffs. Get towards the end of February, you got March, and then you got April, then the playoffs start. Sixers will be in the playoffs. No idea what they're going to do there. So you got to wait and see for that. Flyers aren't doing anything. They're completely irrelevant. And then Phillies. Pitchers and catchers report in a couple of days. I believe it's the 16th or the 15th, which is tomorrow or Thursday. So that'll happen. Spring training will happen. Honestly, I don't even think spring training will be that, entertaining just because of the World Baseball Classic and taking a lot of the guys off the spring training roster. A lot of the main guys. Because I know for the Phillies, I know Schwarber's in it. I know Suarez is in the World Baseball Classic. I'm not sure if Trey Turner is. He might be. I'm not sure. There's a good amount of Phillies on the World Baseball Classic roster. Harper, with his Tommy John, he's not going to be able to play for a little bit until basically the All-Star break. After that, baseball's a long year. And is baseball going to be enough to heal the pain? Just got to wait and see. The city will recover. We will. We bounce back like we always do. But the city is due. The city is due for another championship. I'd still rather be in this position than not. I still would, regardless of the heartbreak. I'd rather get to the championship and lose than not get there at all. I'd rather enjoy that ride than not be able to enjoy it at all. It sucks the way it ended. That's part of the journey. And I think this city is due. I think with Jalen Hurts proving what he did in the Super Bowl, anything is possible. Anything is possible. What the Phillies did last year in the postseason, I think they're going to be way better this year. Let's see what they got to do to prove it. Sixers, I have no idea. I have no idea what the Sixers. Flyers are nowhere close to anything either. So basically right now, your hopes are the Eagles and the Phillies, unless the Sixers completely surprise us. Because like I said with the Sixers, no one cares right now about the regular season because they only care about what happens in the playoffs, if they're going to get past round 2 or not. They got to get past round 2 first before you think of anything championship-wise. Who knows how small their window is. Like I said, I feel like it's the Eagles and Phillies right now with the best chances. But I do think Philadelphia is due. They're definitely due. So, I think that's going to do it for tonight, everybody. I appreciate everyone here that joins the streams. Actually, before I end it off real quickly, I want to see some of you guys in the chat. I see you, Renee. How you doing, man? BJ, keep your head up, man. You had a great year. I definitely, man. But it's hard to think about it like that. But yeah, I do think deep down, yes, I do believe this team has a bright future. But right now, it's hard to say that. Eric says, yep, important thing is Hurts is the real deal. Definitely. Cam Porter says he cried. Yeah, I feel I did too. I did too, man. Channel name says, I don't really want to hear people saying we were robbed or whining like Niners fans. Yeah, there were some shitty circumstances, but we still lost the game. Exactly. Regardless of what the refs did, regardless of how bad the field was, all you need to do was make one stop. All you needed to do was make one stop. Eric says, Reddick and Gardner and CJ Gardner-Johnson, I'm assuming keep. Well, Reddick, they signed in the offseason previous to this year to a contract, so he's here long term. CJ Gardner-Johnson is definitely important to keep. Channel name says my heart couldn't take it. I'm assuming you're talking about other teams in championships or something like that. Howie Roseman will have to work some serious Howie magic this offseason. Exactly. Hurts will be the greatest Eagles quarterback ever to step on the field. He proved that in the Super Bowl. Let's see what more he has under his belt. I'm sure this loss just only made him hungrier. Only made him hungrier. Every single year that Jalen Hurts has played football in his career since college, he has improved every single year. From college all the way to now. He has improved every single year. Let's see what happens next year. Yeah, we were definitely throwing the bag at Hurts. He deserves it. He definitely deserves it. Eric says, great show. Thank you, man. So, without further ado there, thank you everyone for joining tonight. I appreciate everyone that joins the live stream. As always, do not forget to leave a comment down in the comment section below. I like to see those. Do not forget to drop a like on the video. Do not forget to check out everything in the description down below. Do not forget to hit that subscribe button. It does me a great deal of service. Definitely join the TTP Sports family for all Philadelphia sports news, recaps, news, and events, updates, whatever you want to say. Definitely hit that subscribe button. Do it. And also use the code TTP Sports. $20 off your first purchase at SeatGeek. Use it for anything you could think of. Great deal. Do not pass it up. Baseball season, Sixers tickets, whatever you think of, spring training tickets. Great deal. Don't pass it up. Thank you everyone once again for joining tonight. And I will see you next time.